To Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time! 3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Flow game for the win! Ayler's gone! Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Lord, glad to have you to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, the beginning of NCAA tournament play, not counting the play-in games, but the real thing, baby, starts today. 16 games on tap, a full schedule for you, and a loaded schedule on the docket here for us. Off the bat, Dan Dakich will join us here in just a little bit to talk about Indiana's new coach. We'll get his thoughts, what he thinks about the hire. Bob Kravitz along as well. Looking forward to hear what Robert has to say. Tournament play underway. Some great games getting it started in the play-in games with the Xavier last night, an 86-80 win over Texas to get in. Dan joining us here in a second as he joins us, getting ready. Dan, how are you doing, my man?
Sorry, I just had to put my clothes on. Damn, I'm getting ready for the show, Big Jim. Hey, I'm doing wonderful. The world is a good place. We got games all day. Hell yeah. Come on down to Dave and Buster's side of Indy. Let's go. We'll be there. 12 o'clock. What's going on?
Oh, man, that sounds like a fun time and a fun place to be. I'm ready. I'm ready for the games. They've already started, but it's always a great, great time of year, and I think this is going to be another one. I know the SEC has a lot of great teams, and I think Florida might be the team to do it, but that's what the NCAA tournament is for.
0-1. That's what the SEC team is, big boy. Oh, I never root for conferences, really. You know, when you're in the Big Ten and you're coaching, I rooted for everybody else to lose. I don't want to recruit against them, you know. It's the first time. I'm tired of the SEC. I'm tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of downplaying the Big Ten. I hear national dummies saying that all the time. So I'm keeping track. I agree with you on Florida. I think Auburn's going to get beat in the second round. Not sure why I feel that way. But I like me some Duke, man. I think Duke, if that kid's healthy, I think Duke's going to win. I think there's a toughness to Duke that is pretty special.
Well, you're not alone on thinking that, and they are. Cooper Flagg has been, and we saw that they were able to overcome losing him, which I was surprised because it looked like North Carolina was going to put it to them, but they're able to come back, and then they handled business and win the ACC tournament, which was surprising without him. So that bodes well for them into the tournament to me because they've learned to play with adversity by not having him.
Yeah, and they got toughness, real toughness. You know, a lot of people talk about toughness. What is toughness? I'll tell you what toughness is. You lose your two best players. You're playing in a tournament against some couple red-hot teams, and you whip their ass. You know, they beat Louisville, who won 18 games in that league. And by the way, I cannot believe Louisville is an 8th seed in this tournament. I cannot believe Creighton is an 8th seed in this tournament. It was like this. It was like they said, all right, Louisville, we're going to screw you by making an 8th seed up to you by sending you to Lexington. No. I mean, Creighton, if you'd have told me Creighton was a 4 seed, I'd have said, okay, sure, yeah, right, let's go. But my God, those two teams as an 8 seed, that's dirty business. They may still have a little pain or a little problem with Bruce Pearl from back in the day to put those two as his second game.
And in Michigan, there's never been a team that won the Big Ten tournament and wound up as being a 5 seed. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
They Big Ten kind of got screwed seeding wise overall. I think there was not a lot of respect for the Big Ten, and it'd be nice to see, especially Big Ten beat some SEC teams, but just go far. Maryland has a shot to go. Illinois, I don't know why I keep thinking they've got some young talent, but they've been so up and down.
Jim, I keep thinking Illinois too, and then they get blasted, right? Maryland blasts them, or they get blasted by
Duke.
Talked to Coach Underwood after that Duke game, and he's like, "Damn, we were bad. We had nobody at practice. We were sick as a dog." Blah blah blah. Okay, well, I don't think they were sick when they played. Was it Maryland in our Big Ten tournament? And I'm sitting there watching, Jim, and it's 30. It's like 30. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. How the hell is this 30? But you know what? It was, and you got to regroup. Talent's there, no question. But that has been the most up and down team. I'm with you. Maryland, I think, has a real shot here, particularly if that Rice kid, Rodney Rice, is making threes. We saw it in Assembly Hall, right? I mean, Indiana a couple months ago was playing the brakes off of Maryland, but that kid just kept making threes, and he made them deep and he made them tough. It's like anything else, Jim. I tell people, in fact, I was telling Jim Boeheim this yesterday. This is the wrong guy to tell him. I said, Coach, I got a national championship ring, even though I was like a, 20th man on the totem pole because I hit a falling out of bounds jump shot, a bad shot. I said, you don't have your second because of that. That's how important making shots is. And we saw it last night. We saw it last night with what Xavier just said, screw this. We're going to make some threes. And we saw it with UNC on Tuesday night. I mean, God dang, that RJ Davis made all 6 of his threes, which means he's got a lot of misses coming. But whoever makes threes, man, that's the way the basketball bounces these days.
Absolutely. And speaking of threes, Wisconsin slides into that. And of all teams to be talking about threes with Wisconsin, it seems so foreign. But man, what a transformation that program has undergone with Greg Gard. He took them from being the old school Wisconsin to the newfangled offense. And when they are on like they were in the last game they won in the Big Ten tournament, setting records with threes, they can light it up. This time they won't have to play 4 days in a row, so maybe that helps keep their legs under them.
I think it's one of the greatest stories in college basketball. Like Mike Tirico and I, we would not look at the spread or the over/under when we did games, right? But I would at the table, it was like a test for Mike and I. All right, I would open it up. All right, Mike, it's Wisconsin against Michigan. What's the line? What's the line? Or the over/under? And it would always be in the 120s, right? 58, 62, 45, or less. Now, Wisconsin, they're scoring 80. Now they're scoring 75 and above. And it's great because that's what modern basketball has become. Shoot the ball, go get the ball, shoot it again. I'm loving that team. Now, you know how it goes. A matchup can get you. But of all the teams in the Big Ten that I'm really fascinated by, it is Wisconsin, because I've always said this, Jim, in the NCAA tournament, if you can't score 80, you can be upset. Meaning, if you play a game in the 50s, everybody can score 55, 60. But not every team against a good team. High Point against Purdue. High Point's a massive up and down. But can they get to 80 against a Big Ten defense? I don't know. But if Purdue can, I see them winning the game. And the same thing with Wisconsin. Now they can get into, the 80s with regularity, and it's pretty good. It's hard to beat. I'm not saying that Auburn or Creighton can't beat. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the upsets that we see usually happen in the lower numbers.
And it makes perfect sense, because if you're only scoring in the 50, it will not take much to upset that apple cart. Can't wait for that to get started. But of course, a lot of eyes looking at Indiana. West Virginia fans are not happy, but of course that they lost their coach. And I do feel for them, because this is their third coaching change in 21 months that they've gone through. So it sucks. But, if this was the business world, this is how it is, baby.
I don't feel jack, excuse me. They're cheating, lying, thieving. When I was there in 2000, the athletic director told me, if you go forward with this cheating, I'm going to destroy you. And my wife and I look and sitting in the president of the university's office going, what do you mean destroy us? My wife stood up and she said, what do you mean destroy us? And he went into that BS. They're liars. They're cheaters. They're scumbags. I hope whoever they hire does what I did, stays 8 days and says, screw this. Now, I like that they're bitching, whining, and moaning. That means DeVries did some good stuff over there, right? So
Yep.
Heartache is good for you in West Virginia basketball. I love the state. I turned down the Marshall job twice, both stupid. I should have. But at the end of the day, screw you, West Virginia. Indiana's a far better place. It's an iconic program. West Virginia is a really good program, great program. You can get to the Final Four at West Virginia, but it ain't Indiana.
Exactly, and it does not offer the resources, the in-state recruiting build that you can get. But the game has changed a lot with the transfer portal and all that. But with that, it should not and probably will not take Darren very long to develop his first roster. That will include his son, who is a pretty doggone good player.
Yeah, he's a really good player. I watched him against my son's team, Illinois State, for a couple of years. They're going to get a kid, I believe, named Enright, who didn't average a lot of points. He's from DePaul. He just announced he was transferring. He played for DeVries at Drake. But and people are going to say, well, what is this? Why are you taking this kid? Well, you're going to take this Enright kid because he's one of the toughest kids in college basketball. He's one of the winningest, even though they struggled, obviously, at DePaul, but it certainly wasn't him. He's the kind of guy that you want to bring in. I said this all the time. Mike Woodson's first recruits were that Miller cop who was all about himself, headbands and buy my T-shirts and my brand and all the nonsense. And his other first recruit was Xavier Johnson that quit on 2 teams, one in the middle of the season. Can't bring those 2 in to set your culture. The guys you bring in first set your culture. And I got to tell you something. Bringing in his son, who is one of the great players in college basketball, the most coachable kids in college basketball, according to a longtime Darian DeVries assistant, and then bringing in this Enright kid, which I'm thinking is going to be announced in a couple of days or so, sets your culture. Those are the guys. Now, if Goody gets himself an extra year, he needs – oh, shoot, Jim, I don't know what I just did there.
You're good. You just took your camera off, and now you took yourself entirely out, but he'll be back on in just a second. We'll get Dan back on. He just connected himself by accident. But, yeah, we're in pretty much agreement right now. There we go. He's back. He's back.
If Goody gets an extra year and he decides he's not going to be a sulking, whining, coming off the floor me guy, then maybe I would keep him. But you sit down, you meet with all the players, you look them in the eye. They're going to give you all nonsense. Some are going to be arrogant. Some are going to say, I'm leaving. Okay, good. But Tucker DeVries, and if they do, in fact, get this Enright kid, it's a pretty good place to start your team. It's a pretty good place to start your culture, and hope they do.
Yeah, that would be great because it needs to be the way it used to be because it should be. There's no reason for it not to be. You just need the right person. And with that said, what do you think about the hire?
Well, I think it's a terrific hire. I've said this all along. Just get a normal human being in there. Just get somebody that's proven they can win. And I don't know, people are going to say, well, you got 19 and 13 for 9. Look, what he took over at West Virginia was a mess. Interim coach, all that kind of stuff. He's proven what he could do. I loved watching his teams play at Drake. His longtime assistant, Marty Richter, was my assistant at Bowling Green. I talked to him yesterday, and he's always spoken so highly of it, and I take Marty's word. He's a dude that can talk sports. He's not going to be like Woodson with me, I. He's not going to be a little curmudgeon like Archie Miller, a psychopath, although I don't think Tom Crean should have been fired. Like Crean, or a cheat in every way like Calvin Sampson. He's just a regular dude that coaches ball, is a family dude, is going to blend in. You're going to see him at volleyball games. And that's what I've always said. Look, hire a dude. Why do we have to have these psychopaths coach Indiana? Just hire a dude that knows how to win, that is a teacher, and is tough. And by all accounts, he's tough as hell, gets some technicals. I think it's an absolutely great hire. I love Ben McCollum. Had a chance to talk to Ben on Monday. Loved everything about him. And I actually text Scott Dolson, just hire Ben McCollum, give him whatever he wants, and let's go. But when I saw they were going to get DeVries, when a friend of mine hit me with a text about 4 hours before it, I said, man, that's great. Let's go. All right. My thing, though, is I've heard everybody's press conference. People say, well, did you listen to press conference? Hell no. I care less. Well, the tradition. And here's the other thing. Don't worry for a second if you're Coach DeVries about former players. I have a theory. I have a rule. I never go in business with former Indiana University men's basketball players that play because they're entitled. They are babies. They think they're owed something. Don't even worry about them, Coach DeVries. You do your thing, man. Seriously. Don't worry about my fat ass, Brian, anybody, none of us. Just don't worry about the family and all that. There is no family in Indiana. So don't even worry about it. Go win games. Screw that. And we'll all be kissing your ass.
Winning usually cures a lot, including that. And it reminds me of something that Brian said in an interview with the great Mike DeCourcy, was that, you look at Cignetti and you can tell he's working his ass off. He's getting up at 4:30, whatever, and he's in the recliner at midnight. That was not the feeling at all on the basketball side. It was quite the opposite. And there's a reason why you saw the winning and the incredible transformation on the football field, which is extraordinarily difficult to do. I mean, that was a walking corpse of a program that was resurrected like the Phoenix. And it should be that way in basketball, but you have to put that effort in.
Here's the great Don Fisher and I were playing golf this summer, and I will expose him because, he plays golf all the time. And on the 6th Old Oakland, he looks at me after hitting 2 out of bounds. He goes, hey, Doc, I'm out of golf balls. I'm like, damn, son, what are we, 12? I go, here's a sleeve, Fish. But anyway, I just like telling that story. It doesn't mean anything, Jim. I just like telling that story because I love Fish. But
we all do.
He told me something as we were playing. We were talking about Cignetti, and this is before the season. He said, that's the most organized coach I've ever seen come through here in any sport. And I thought, really? And then he explained to me what he's done. Because, a new coach comes in, everybody goes, rah, rah, this is different, blah, 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 blah. But when Don was explaining to me how he's got every day down to detail, all this kind of stuff, I thought, you know what, this is going to be a success. And then I had a mother of a walk-on. I was at a dinner, first part of, like, in the spring. And his mother didn't know jack squat about football. And she's complaining about Cignetti being too tough on the poor boys. Complaining he got rid of one of these wide receivers because he wouldn't go to class and how unfair that was. And my wife and I are the wrong people to tell that to, but for the first time in our lives, we shut the hell up. And then we went back to a dinner. Same people were there, actually. It was at Lucas Oil Estate charity dinner. And Jim, the difference was unbelievable. Oh, we love Coach Cignetti. Everybody does, so get in there. You can always lighten up. You can't always toughen up. Make these clowns that played at Indiana this past year understand what Indiana is about. And it isn't about former players, or it isn't about candy stripes, or it isn't about the Leal deal or any of the bullshit that these guys try to sell. It's simply about leadership and winning. And get guys in here that care more about leadership and winning than they do about their headband or their hair like Galloway, or what girl am I hanging out? What bar am I hanging out after? Or can I sell the Leal deal? Get rid of all that crap. Get guys in there that want to play basketball, bust their ass, have a great time on campus, and things will be fine.
I think we're heading in that direction. I don't want to keep you because I know you got someplace to go. Dan's, don't forget, you can catch him on Outkick. And in addition to that, on 1430, The Ticket in Indianapolis. So you can get a double dose of Dan, or actually a triple dose of Dan Dakich today. Dan, I can't thank you enough, buddy. I know you're busy as hell.
Always, Jim. You're my man. Let's drink soon. See you, brother.
Have a great day. Enjoy the tournament. Dan Dakich joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We've got lots more coming up. We'll be back with it right after these messages.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, and get yourself set up with some Hard Truth for this NCAA tournament. You may need some, even though if your team may not even be in it. Watching those brackets, and I feel like there's not going to be the big bracket busting this year as it has been. Which having bracket busting is great because that means you get upsets, but it kind of aggravates you when you're filling those brackets out. Speaking of which, you can go to the ESPN Fantasy tab and go to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Fill out the bracket. Password is, and I don't know why you have to have passwords for that. It's dumb, but it's simply Indiana 2025. Go fill it out. Depending on how many people we get in there, and it's so late, have it with the coaching search, we haven't been able to promote it. Get plenty of people in there. We'll give something away. Still owe somebody something for the football one, and waiting for them to reach out to us. Yes. Dan does have a little more freedom with his words, and it gives me a little more freedom with the edit button later. So no problem on that. Glad to have Dan join us and give his opinions as someone who spent 13 years around the Indiana program. I know he could be a polarizing lightning rod, but hey, he knows, like all former Knight players, they're very intelligent players. That's why we have Todd on so much, just a really, really good basketball mind. So glad to get his input on that. And I agree. And it's good to see that there's not a lot of discontent from those that are in the know. And I've seen people ask, well, what's Todd think? Well, you'll find out tomorrow when Todd joins us. But I think you're going to find the same thing, that it's a positive take on it, that they see him as a basketball coach. They see what he can do. And speaking of which, I'm going to do something I don't do very often, and I'm going to take the fans to task What the hell is wrong with some of you people? Some of the comments I saw in regards to this hire were ridiculous. The first thing people need to remember is you don't know what you don't know. So jumping on and saying things that are just completely not accurate or whatever about the hire or such negative things about the hire because there are so many people that are experts. I can tell you right now, I'm not an expert. I cannot predict who is going to be great. But I can tell you who sucks. I can see it. I can tell you bad basketball when I see it. And I have. I've had to talk about that twice with the last two. So I am going into this thinking, hey, I think that they have a shot. This is the best shot they have had in quite some time to being the kind of program that Indiana fans would like to see and the kind of program that they should be. But people, what in the hell, man? Jump back, realize you are not an expert. I don't consider myself an expert. I try to talk to people that I do consider experts, like I just did, like I will tomorrow, like I will later. You don't know what you don't know. Andy, thank you, sir. Haroon Zerno decommitted from Indiana yesterday, but that tells me that he doesn't either think that he would fit into that system or maybe he got an indication. That was because that was a weird kind of recruitment. It kind of came out of nowhere. And I'm not seeing that as a loss to either Indiana or to Coach DeVries. I think that his son more than makes up for that, number one. But I just think that is not a loss to me. That will just simply allow Darian DeVries to implement another player that he particularly wants. And remember, you don't want a load of freshmen coming in. You've got Trent Sisley. He's got a couple of other guys that could potentially follow him. I've said and will maintain that 3 freshmen are the most you want to bring in. There's no way that it doesn't catch up to Purdue of bringing in a 5-man freshman class. We'll see. But for one thing, you want, going back to Curt Cignetti, production over potential. Production over potential. And it makes perfect sense. You got to get it out of them now. What can you get from them now? Because they need to help you win now. This is not before getting a class like that. Well, it was still a little dangerous because you better have some damn good ones in there. But you're building for the future. You're no longer building for the future. You're building for right now. So I have no problem with, and I do not think that anyone should not be bringing in more than 3 freshmen unless they're a Cooper Flag. If they're a Cooper Flag, that's not considered a freshman to me. He doesn't fit in that same box. So it's John asking again what the password is. I think it's just simply Indiana 2025. I'll double check that, but Pete, our buddy Pete set that up. So, but I'll check on that and get back to you because we're going to go into another break here in a second as we get ready for Bob Kravitz to come join us. Talk about this hire, get his thoughts. I think that he liked it as well. He's got a piece out. We'll talk about that. On the other side, from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, we're back in 2 minutes. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. while Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distillery Company studios on this Thursday. Like I said, you may need some hard truths. Go set yourself up for the NCAA tournament. Pat McAfee, not happy with Indiana right now. A big-time fan of Indiana usually. His wife is a Hoosier. He's a big fan of Kurt Signetti, but right now he is not happy with Indiana and not happy with Darian DeVries, but of course he's a big West Virginia fan, an alumnus from the Mountaineers, and that's okay. That's okay, and you know it's okay for West Virginia fans to be upset. But again, when they're calling out conspiracy theories that this was being done down in the Bahamas, which is a joke. And that then his son Tucker was held out with purpose. So with this in mind, that's crap. That's crap. This is no different than think about any company, whether we're talking about Coca-Cola or Apple or whatever. And those companies have gigantic departments, which have gigantic department heads, equivalent to i.e. a football coach, a basketball coach. Well, if IBM or Google or Apple has an opening for one of these department heads and they go get someone from another company that's a little smaller than they are, is that going to be looked upon with this disdain? No. You know why? It's because fans feel ownership of their programs. They are emotionally invested. So therefore, their opinions, their takes are emotionally charged. And a lot of the times, the facts are a little askew. Their emotions get in the way of that. There's no conspiracy. Now, I don't know when these talks started. They started before the season was over, but we knew that, the back channeling from a standpoint, but there was apparently a little more than back channeling. I think that there was a 30-minute conversation at least that I was surprised by that. I would have expected permission to have been granted, but the AD from West Virginia, not that upset with the things that went down. So, but hopefully Bob will be joining us here in a minute to get his thoughts on this coaching hire. But the Indiana fans that are not in the camp, and I saw a post yesterday by an Indiana fan. Well, it'll only take a few games for us to see if this guy can coach. And I'm like, what is this? The Hoosiers barbershop scene? Who are these people that think that they can decide if a guy can coach? Dude, he doesn't have to prove he can coach. He's already done that. If you don't think he can coach, or there's a chance that he can't coach, that would just be more than shocking. But I get it. Indiana fans are burned. These last two hires have been horrible. Horrible. I get they're tired of losing. They're tired of not winning. Indiana fans are tired of not winning, and I get that. Indiana is a program that won for decades upon decades. And when you build that kind of winning into a natural basketball fan base, as the state of Indiana already was, that grows to massive proportions. And it stayed that way. And even through the losing, through all of the turmoil and all the bad times, Indiana fans were still there. They seem to start getting a little crazier the further this is gone. So hopefully winning will cure some of that. And I think that winning is coming for Indiana fans. I think that you're going to see a winning team next year. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win the Big Ten title. I'm not saying they're not. But I'm just saying expect Indiana to be fun next season, to be competitive next season. He did it at West Virginia. He took over a team that was predicted to be last in the conference. But that's not where they finished, and they would have been better had it not been for a couple of late season injuries. They made the NCAA tournament, in my estimation. I'm going with that. And another thing, Stephen, great point. DeVries is a guy that is going to work hard. He's going to be a guy that has a Signetti-esque work ethic towards the job. That's massively important because you have to have that to be a winner. You have to do the details. You have to have a plan, a blueprint. But, there was a lot of words said yesterday that were very reminiscent of Curt Cignetti. A plan, a blueprint, your standards. Those are words that you want to hear because that's what it takes to build a program. That is what it takes to build consistency. That is what it takes to build culture. And that, I'm not saying that as some kind of expert. To me, it's common sense. But it all starts like it does on the court with the same thing off the court, effort. And that comes from the coach. The coach has to make the effort. If the coach is not making the effort on the recruiting scene, you think players don't see that, feel that? Yes, they do. Because if you're taking a nonchalant attitude in that regard, you have a nonchalant attitude. And whatever attitude you have, will be mimicked by your players. Teams often take on personalities of their coaches. Not always, but often. And you don't want to have to create. It's better to have to temper than to create. And by that, I mean effort. But I don't think that's going to be a problem for Indiana fans going forward. And I think they're going to be very happy. I think they're going to have a program. And one of the things that Darian DeVries said yesterday about the program, he does want the former players to look at the program and to be happy about it. And I agree. I know Dan said, hey, don't worry about us. And I understand what he's saying. He's like, hey, you just coach the team and you focus on being good, and that takes care of itself. And it will. If the good product is on the floor, a product that makes those guys proud of the heritage that they built, they're going to be fine. They'll fall in line. And that's something that has not happened. I think Tom Crean probably made the biggest effort than anybody of doing all of those things, of trying to make the program as inclusive as possible. Fans, former players, any and everybody. He worked relentlessly at that. And he still does that in his life, as you can see. But winning cures everything. And putting a winning program on the floor, and by winning, I mean one that is competing year in, year out, that is competitive year in, year out, that is actually in the hunt for Big Ten titles year in, year out. Now, a couple things people need to remember. I don't see Indiana or anyone getting back to the days of winning the amount of Big Ten titles and things like that was going on with Bob Knight and Gene Cady, partly because back then the Big Ten was just that, the Big Ten. Now it's the Big 18. You have 8 more programs that you have to worry about cycling through a potential good season, whether it's Michigan, State, UCLA, Illinois, Maryland. It's a gauntlet. But you can be competitive. You can not win Big Ten titles, but be more competitive nationally. That's all Indiana fans want. They're tired of not winning. That's it. And I get it. They deserve it. I will say, while I am disappointed in a lot of the comments I've seen, I still think that the Indiana fan base is the most amazing fan base out there, because through all of the crap, it's easy to love a team that wins nonstop like Indiana did from winning NCAA titles from the advent of the NCAA tournament, winning the second one ever. So the winning started immediately. Yeah, it's hard to get unused to winning. I said this yesterday. I like people that are like me. Losing hurts much more than winning feels good. I think that's a Darian DeVries. He is driven, and he's got an opportunity. And for the West Virginia fans that are whining, I'm sure he wishes the timing was different. Of course he does. And when he said all the things that he said about that he wanted to do for the West Virginia program, he meant it. He also was not expecting, nor should he have been, that the opportunity of a lifetime was going to soon come his way. And yes, I'm not really concerned with what anybody thinks on this, but coaching at Indiana is the opportunity of a lifetime for most coaches, but definitely one for a coach that 1 year ago was at Drake. So it's a nice jump. I'm pretty sure he did not think right before he left to go to West Virginia that a year later he would be at Indiana, or that opportunity would be presented. But it has. Who would expect him to turn it down? Are you serious? He doubled his salary, for gosh sakes, on top of the opportunity. I mean, Tom Crean did say it right. It's Indiana. It's Indiana. And that matters still. And I go back to the fan base being so passionate all the way through the turmoil of the 6-25 season. They were still there. They've been there. They've been there through 2.5 decades of crap. Well, there's been some highs during the Tom Crean era. But for the most part, it has been crap when you compare it to Indiana standards. And yes, Indiana has standards. They just have failed to meet them. Pecan likes the hire. Carl asked, was Leal at the press conference? He was outside the door, I believe, and spoke to a coach immediately afterwards. Todd was there, and we'll talk to him about that tomorrow. Cisco Sunrise says the press conference and hire were both low-key, which is nice for a change, and I agree. Man, that's why I kept saying, I'm like, I'm fine with waiting. Nothing was going to change. And that is, and I agree with that. Low-key. Let's don't keep the main thing the main thing. The main thing is putting a winning program out there. It's not the glitz, the glamour. It's not promoting this as this. All right. It's time to get back to a little blue collar. And a guy coming in from Drake, who's been a grinder, who was at West Virginia, blue collar. I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see good defense and fun offense. But you're going to see a program that has a plan, that has a blueprint, that has an understanding of how to build a modern college basketball team. And that's one of the things that Scott Dolson mentioned yesterday is looking for a coach that understood the modern college game and could build a roster around that. The fact that those very words were used, well, that was pointed, I thought. Not necessarily purposely, but maybe for the fans. I think those words may have been more for the fans. And they were the right words to use as well. Because that's what they want to see. I believe all this stuff to be true because I completely believe, well, I know for a fact. Now, and when I say I know for a fact on this, it's not because I've been told. I know for a fact through my experience and common sense that Scott Dolson was given carte blanche, hands off. He's done. This is, you just hold this chicken's head and he'll get him taken care of. But that's why nothing's leaked out, because he was not telling people. Because had he been telling people, it would have leaked out. Therefore, very, very, very few people. I'm going to say it was 4 to 6 people may have known, and at least 4 of those were inside the Indiana athletics program. People that are close to Scott, John Deckman, someone he mentioned yesterday. Steve, I can't think of his last name, who is pretty much his right-hand man. He had a close circle. John Deckman running looking at all kinds of things. The record, they looked at his record in games decided by 5 points or less. They looked at a bunch of metrics. This was not a willy-nilly hire, man. There were a lot of things that went into this. That's why I keep saying you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what all they looked at. You don't know what all the information that they received about any and everybody. So take it for what it's worth. The guy who is in charge, and I think has learned from any mistakes that he has made on the job, to be better at his job. Now, Pecan asked, am I a little concerned about the staff? No, I don't see a reason to be concerned about the staff, because I think that Darian DeVries has shown he knows what he's doing. The one caveat there, I'm still surprised that somehow Tom Ostrom made it onto his staff at West Virginia. I will be surprised if he finds his way to Bloomington. Now, I've said also I would be surprised if Corey Barnett does not find his way to Bloomington. I would almost be shocked. Hell, I would be shocked. He played for Indiana. He played on a team with Jordan Hulls, but his family has deep roots in the AAU systems. They have deep ties to the state of Indiana in recruiting. You don't know what you don't know. And I think that is going to pay great dividends with recruiting this state, this area. And then if you build it, they will come. Indiana lost Liam McNeely because he could see. He could see what was going on. And somebody probably talked to him as well and said, man, are you sure about this? And he probably said, yeah, no, I'm really not. Let's see, this program that wants me is going in this direction, winning back-to-back national titles. This one is going in this direction, not making the NCAA tournament. And he was right. Can you imagine if Indiana had gotten Liam McNeely and Derek Queen? Now, that would have changed their fortune somewhat, but good for Indiana fans that they did not. It would change what's going on now. Man, that's going to wrap it up for this hour. We're going to take a break. Shannon Griffith will join us next. We'll talk a little football before getting back to basketball. Appreciate you being with us here on this Thursday of NCAA Tournament Start Day, Tip-Off Day. We're back with more from the Hard Truth at Indiana Sports Beat Radio and from the Distilling Company Studios right after this. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. And you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company's studios on this Thursday, joined now by Coach Shannon Griffith from Hoosier Tailgate and thehoosier.com. How is it going?
It is going good. Good day. Yesterday finally wrapped up a big search for the Hoosiers. Got a good one there with Coach.
Very kind of Signetti-esque, not as bold, let's say. He was a little more, I guess that's the best word to put it, not as full of piss and vinegar as Kurt is, but I think that they're cut from kind of the same cloth, although I'm still, Kurt Signetti is a grinder.
Yeah. Well, I think the commonality is both had won at every stop they'd been at, essentially. And, that speaks for itself. That's, going in and doing the job that they're expected to do. They won. And when you win, you get noticed, and that leads to the opportunities that they both got. And you can just tell by West Virginia's reaction or Pat McAfee's reaction that they lost a pretty darn good coach, and they had a lot of high hopes that he was going to restore them, back to the promised land there at West Virginia. So another good hire by Scott. I think that's the thing that speaks out. And, for a guy that's only been sitting in that true seat here for just a few years, I think you could tell by how he's handled these last 2 hires. Speaks volumes. Like, I think I heard you say that maybe he's learned from mistakes, previous searches and things of that magnitude, to the point now where he has his process, and he's done a great job of keeping it close to vest and not leaking things out. So
the fact that was able to be done on a search like this,
sure, with
the importance level of this, shows you how tight this was done. And now, and that's why I was not throwing out crap against the wall to see what stuck, because I knew this was one that whatever's coming out is BS. It's not. I repeat the only things I was repeatedly saying on like the Hoosier.com and responding to comments was, I will guarantee you that is not accurate. I will tell you that is not correct. I will tell you that's wrong. No, I will tell you Brad Stevens is not going to be the coach at Indiana. Right. Was never a serious candidate. Chris Beard is not going to be a coach at Indiana. And there were certain things that I did know were not going to happen. But what was going to happen? No, because that was kept under wraps and spectacularly. And it had to be, because now you see West Virginia fans complaining that this was going on before the very, very end of the season. And, well, yeah, it had to be. It started as soon as Indiana started before they started looking for a coach, really. But all the back channeling, we talked about it for weeks.
Right.
That there was back channeling going on, and there was. Well, and then there was apparently a 30-minute meeting, Zoom meeting, which I was a little surprised by that they had a 30-minute Zoom meeting, but West Virginia fans are, thinking, well, they wrecked our season on purpose. Well, but whoa. You were picked to finish last.
Right.
He got you to the NCAA tournament, for God's sakes. So shut up. Fans are they're too emotionally invested sometimes, and that clouds what they say. And that's why I have done my best job that I can to eliminate any kind of fandom in my head, because it clouds your decision. It clouds your opinions. It clouds how you see things. And I don't want that. But I'm not going to lie to you, it's a hell of a lot more fun being on the other side, being a fan, getting to just let your emotions go, because that's a great emotional swing. Games are such great emotional swings. That's why people love sports. You cannot fake that emotion.
Right. Well, and I think the one thing is it's fun to speculate as it pertains to who may or who may not be in the hunt for a particular position, whether it be a head coach or assistant coach. The ones that ultimately get disappointed is because they end up politicking for one candidate. And then when that candidate doesn't get picked, they immediately start telling people how bad this hire was. You know what I mean? So that's the one thing I think you got to be, that I always see with some guys that want to politic for somebody. And then when it doesn't go the way they thought it should go, they're the ones that are ultimately wanting to tear down the hire as being a bad hire from that standpoint. But hey, everything's rolling good. Everything's on a high at Indiana right now. I don't know if I've ever seen a fan base that is excited about two of the top sports in the country, football and now basketball, with this hire than I ever have in terms of Indiana. I just think there's a lot of momentum that I think ultimately leads to season ticket sales, both football, basketball, money coming in for the collective and things of that magnitude that all, shines brightly on the two sports that Indiana, if they can remain in a top of mind atmosphere within the Big Ten and the country. I think things are, on the right trajectory for them to have a great 1-2 punch, something that they haven't had at probably any point in time on a consistent basis.
Yeah. And, my favorite saying, winning cures everything.
Oh yeah.
So
right.
all you got to do is go out, just win the Big Ten, and this will all go away. No big deal. Yeah, just kidding. And I did talk about that because that is the standard. That is the desire for IU fans, as it should be, to win Big Ten titles. But the reality is to compete for Big Ten titles.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is no longer the Big Ten. It's the Big 18.
Yeah.
With CLA, with Oregon added in here, with great Oregon has great resources. UCLA, not so much. They're not big into the NIL. And earlier, when I mentioned the resources that Indiana has, and someone said, well, everybody has resources. Everybody has resources, but those resources are not the same. West Virginia does not have Indiana NIL money. Drake does not have Indiana NIL money. Most programs do not have Indiana NIL money. So, yeah, every place has resources, but they are far from being the same. And
I think Indiana in basketball was either 1-2 in terms of the.
They're definitely in the top 5. We don't really know exactly, but they are. That's my point. West Virginia was not in that group.
No.
Drake, not in that group. So, yes, it does matter. Recruiting, from a recruiting standpoint, the state of Indiana, more resources, tradition. All of that goes together. Fan base, there are few teams in the country that have that. Indiana just was not able to take advantage of it. People asking about the URL for the bracket. It's ESPN. Just go to ESPN, far right fantasy tab. Go down and see, what does it say on there? Once you get in there, men's tournament challenge. Just go to the men's tournament challenge under the fantasy tab on ESPN. Look for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and the password is simply Indiana 2025, capital I. Jump in. Let's see who. As soon as I get done with everything today, that's my first order of business. Then I want to bet on this. I normally don't, but I'm going to do what a friend of mine does every year, and he bets every game, takes the underdog money line, and that is supposed to pay out every time. Now, if you bet $5, that's a $160 bet. And if you bet $10, it just doubles.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to bet to win, right? So I'm going to test that theory. I'll let you know how it goes, but I'm going to test that theory.
It's spring break, man. I think Indiana spring break comes up starting Friday. Last practice here before the spring break today, probably all but over. Right now they're at the complex for the Hoosiers, and had a chance to chat with Bryant a little bit back and forth text message wise this past week. And I think feels pretty comfortable with what they've got in terms of who they got returning. Of course, I said Aiden Fisher makes that a lot better when waking up.
Who did you say you spoke with?
Bryant.
Oh,
yeah.
B-man.
Yeah. And he likes what he's got in the back end. So,
but let's talk about exactly that, what he has. Of course, he's got, you just mentioned the centerpiece to that, Aiden Fisher, who I'm going to be surprised that with Indiana's unbelievable rise on the defensive side last year, led by Aiden Fisher and company, that he is not an first team All-American next year. That's hard to get.
Yeah.
But when you're able, and I don't understand why it is not seen this way nationally, but when you are able to do that at an Indiana, when you're playing against Oregon and Iowa and Penn State and Illinois, that's supposed to make it harder.
Yeah.
That's supposed to make it more special. I always go back to Anthony Thompson when he was doing what he did and didn't win the Heisman, should have won the Heisman, but he was doing it against. And the same with Tevin Coleman, doing this against Ohio State, against Michigan State, against Penn State. That's what's harder. You're doing it from Indiana. Please. But we'll see. But yes, D'Angelo Pons, another great piece back. They've got some great pieces, and they lost a few. CJ West off the line. They've got some guys, but they brought pieces in. What is it looking like right now?
Well, I just think that the secondary is an improvement upon what they had a year ago in terms of having more back and getting the kid from Pitt, the other corner, and then Boykin, this kid out of North Carolina State, on top of what they already have in place. I think the biggest question mark is who they're going to put next to Aiden for the year. They worked a couple kids in that spot during the season, especially when Walker was down, that they feel confident in. And then up front, that's probably the biggest thing. You lose a CJ West, Carpenter. That's probably where they got hit the most in terms of talent. Those two guys were a pretty big part of it. So we'll have to shake out and see what happens. And I think Mendoza is showing.
Wait a minute. Do you mean
Fernando
Mendoza?
Yeah, I think Fernando
I think that's how he should be introduced. And starting at quarterback for the Indiana Hoosiers, Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing with Fernando is I think that he's getting more and more comfortable within the scheme, getting the ball in and out of his hands quicker and things of that nature, and he's going to have to learn to trust the protection because a year ago he was sacked some 41 times. So you get into a new situation, you've got to eliminate that mindset that you're hitting your third step and all of a sudden you're running because you get pressure. But I think he's well on his way to, doing the things that they anticipate that he can do. And, running back, wide receiver, I think, man, they got pretty good rooms again this year. I think the biggest question mark on offense is going to be the tight end spot. And I think we've talked about this before because of what Horton gave him all the, last year and previous years, being able to flex out, attach, unattach, be able to be involved in the passing game, but a really good blocker at the point of attack or on the perimeter. So I think that's going to be, who is that guy going to be for Indiana this year? Or do they change their mindset there with the tight end and maybe go to more 4 wide receivers in situations instead of keeping the tight end in the game? So I think where they're at right now is a positive. I think Coach Cignetti feels that by all means they're a step ahead of where they were a year ago at the same time. But they still have some work to be done and get themselves in the right mindset heading into the spring game. And then of course into the summer. And, it's going to be interesting. I don't know if you saw this or heard this, but
hey, can you, I've got to hit a break.
Oh yeah.
But I'm wondering, can we pick you back up in the third segment if you're going to be around?
Yeah.
All right. I'll hit you back up. I figured you might. Got to hit a quick break. And when we come back, man, with all that's going on, did you see the Pacers last night again? Cardiac Kids, man, they pull out a huge win. They were trailing. It did not look good. A 3 by Dallas. And then all of a sudden, we've got the man who called it and was right there courtside on the backside. Chris Denari, the voice of the Pacers, will join us when we return to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios right after these messages. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Moreale in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Moreale in Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum, Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Thursday, and the voice of the Pacers, Chris Denari, with us. And I hope after the end of last night's game, you had plenty of honey and tea, because I'm sure it stretched those vocal cords, man.
I'll tell you what, Jim, it's been crazy. If you think about the last two games, Monday night at Minnesota, the Pacers win in overtime on a three-point shot inside 5 seconds by Obi Toppin. And then last night, down 11 halfway through the fourth quarter, I think down 7 with 58 seconds to play, down 4 with around 40 seconds to play. And the Pacers come back, make a couple of key defensive plays. Andrew Nembhard hits a 3. And the Pacers win again on the front night of a back-to-back. And we get to do it all again tonight. I know it's March Madness. I'm looking forward to watching games as well. But the Pacers also have a game tonight at Gainbridge Fieldhouse against the Brooklyn Nets. So just a fantastic win. You hate to put yourself in that position. Dallas is very undermanned. You know, after the Doncic trade, Anthony Davis is out. Kyrie Irving is out. But, you know, they've still got guys that play hard.
But once again, every time Indiana plays a team that is either down with injuries or whatever, boy, they are just they don't get up for them.
Well, and, you know, it was interesting. I thought they did a really good job early. They were up 16 in the first half. I thought played very physical, had a 12-point lead after the first quarter. And I thought, hey, they've really attacked this well. But they had that letdown in the third quarter, and Dallas was making shots. And unfortunately, too, Dallas was a lot of straight line drives. I mean, the Pacers defense was not what it needed to be last night, gave up a lot of paint points. But again, when they needed to, they were able to get the win. And, you know, what was interesting is what happened to them a little bit is what they did to Minnesota on Monday. You know, Monday night, the Pacers played without 4 starters. Siakam was out with for personal reasons. Halliburton was out with a sore back, didn't play last night as well. Nesmith was out. Turner was out. And then Nembhard got thrown out in the third quarter for throwing a ball at Rudy Gobert. It was his second technical foul. And then Benedict Mathurin fouled out in the fourth quarter. So the Pacers, Tony Bradley on a 2-way contract was playing. Quentin Jackson, or a 10-day contract. Quentin Jackson on a 2-way. And both of those guys scored in double figures. So it was a little bit the same thing for Minnesota, having to deal with an undermanned Pacers team. And I think human nature sometimes, Jim, you just let down, right? Because you're not playing against the top line players. And I don't think that happened to the Pacers early. I thought they attacked it very well last night against Dallas. It maybe happened in the second half. They got a little bit too comfortable. And once you let a team get on a roll, it's oftentimes hard to get it back. So that's what I find pretty impressive about the Pacers, that they somehow were able to come back and win that game.
Well, and they've done it down, guys. They did not have Pascal Siakam for the first win the other night, the comeback win that we talked about, who was out for personal reasons, and they were still without Tyrese Halliburton last night, and are able to find ways to get the job done, which is huge. Gives them back-to-back wins now with back-to-back home games coming. Unfortunately, those back-to-back home games are against the same team, and it just has not gone well with back-to-back games. It's usually been home and away, and losing at home and winning away. But hopefully does not hold to form, and they can win at home on these back-to-back games.
Yeah, these 2 games are important because then your next 2 games, the Pacers have 4 more at home. This is the longest homestand of the year, 5 games. They've got Brooklyn tonight, Brooklyn on Saturday, then a rematch with Minnesota on Monday, and then the Lakers are in town next Wednesday. Luka Doncic, of course, used to play for Dallas, who the Pacers played last night. He'll be in the building. LeBron James has been out with that injury. We don't know what his status will be for next week. But those 2 games against Minnesota and the Lakers, 2 very good Western Conference teams, are very important to the Pacers. But you can't look ahead to those. You've got to take care of business tonight against Brooklyn and Saturday against Brooklyn. The good news is, Jim, Pacers are 10 games over 500 for the second or third time this year. They're currently 4th in the Eastern Conference. They have passed Milwaukee, but that is still very tight. Milwaukee and Detroit are both only a game behind. Pacers are getting closer to clinching a top 6 spot. That means they're guaranteed a playoff spot, would not have to worry at all about the play-in situation. So the next week or so is going to be very big for this team. The advantage is they've got 10 of the last 14 at home. The disadvantage is that Rick Carlisle said, look, you just can't be content that you're playing on your home floor. And hopefully the Pacers learned that lesson last night, but they learned the lesson with a win.
Absolutely. And to kind of just keep the momentum going as they head closer and closer to playoffs. I know that you don't have time to catch a lot of other teams much, but have you seen the transformation of Jalen Hood-Schifino?
Yeah.
On the move to Philadelphia? He could not get minutes or anything in Los Angeles. He goes to Philly and he's scoring 30 points. I'm like, what the hell? Man.
It is important. And part of that is, he's getting an opportunity. And Philadelphia has so many injuries. But these are the type of things that young players need. He got his first start against the Pacers last Friday. And Quinn Buckner and I talked about it. One of the things that he is so talented at is getting to the rim. His perimeter shot, not what he needs to have. He'll work on that as the years go on. But this is a great opportunity for him, for Jalen Hood-Schifino to have an opportunity to play. And that's what a young player is looking for. And, Jim, that's why I say a lot of times it is hard to play against teams like Philadelphia or Dallas when they're undermanned, because you have somebody like Jalen Hood-Schifino. He's trying to prove a point. He's trying to say, I belong in this league. He doesn't care about what Philadelphia's record is right now. He's not been a part of the 76ers for only maybe a week or 2. So that's what you're dealing with when you're playing a lot of these teams, and that's a credit to them. I mean, he's playing to show any team, not just Philadelphia, but any team, that he belongs in this league, and that's what you're seeing from a lot of these young guys in the final weeks of the regular season.
Yeah, and when I caught a game a few nights ago, I was impressed by his willingness to try to shoot, to try to get to the rim. He was not passive in any way. He was going after it, and I'm like, wow, he would just seem to be playing with such confidence.
No question about that, and I'll take that to a veteran, somebody who has really helped the Pacers, and that's Thomas Bryant, another IU product. He has gotten an opportunity here that he was not getting in Miami, and he is taking full advantage of what he can offer the Pacers. And it's not only helping him, but it's helping the Pacers team. And I think that's so important. I think people get lost in that it is also a job for these guys, and you've got to build your brand. And so for Hood-Schifino, for Thomas Bryant, they are coming into a new situation, and they not only want to impress the team that they're playing for, they want to impress the other 29 teams in the NBA that if it doesn't work out in where you are, it may work out for you somewhere else. So, yeah, it's good to see. As I told you, we saw Hood-Schifino last Friday when the Pacers played Philadelphia, and it was his first start for Philadelphia because they were undermanned, and only had 8 or 9 guys available. So it's good to see young guys like that make some progress, and hopefully it leads to a bigger and better career.
Absolutely. And just makes it more and more fun. But that will also end up helping Indiana somewhat, because their pros were starting to shrink a little bit, but now it's like some of these guys are coming back to life. Did I see that Kel'el Ware still with Miami?
Yeah, he's in Miami.
Okay, I think I saw something about that, but yeah, good to see that talent coming around. And it's funny, you can see the growth and maturity in Thomas Bryant.
Yes.
He looks like a professional now, and that doesn't mean that he is a superstar. And I'm not saying that. He is a professional. He is doing a job. You can tell he's doing it as a job. He knows his role and he knows what he needs to do, and he goes in and does just that very thing.
I think that's the most important point that you just said, Jim, is as you evolve as a player, you understand your role. Thomas knows right now he is probably not a starter in the NBA, but he can be a fill-in starter. And when he has started this year, he's averaged about 13, 14 points, 6 or 7 rebounds. But I think that's the biggest point, is he understands who he is, what he can offer to a team, and doesn't really stray from that role. Doesn't mean you can't improve or do some things. But I think by the time you get into year 7 or 8, you understand who you are and what you can offer a team.
Absolutely. And what have you seen of these Pacers now? They've been kind of playing with some what's the word I'm looking for? Difficulties by not having certain guys. I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of, but they've been playing these games not full strength, but able to gut these wins out. That comes around in tournament time when the close games, because tournament games tend to be closer. They play harder. A lot more of these games go down to the wire.
Yeah, I mean, the game slows down. I mean, you don't have back-to-back, so you're fully rested. You know, during the course of an NBA season, you've got 15, 16 back-to-back. So that's 32 games that you're playing, consecutive nights. When you get to the postseason or the playoffs, that doesn't happen. And all teams are on different schedules. So, for instance, Brooklyn didn't play last night. The Pacers are on the second out of back-to-back. Later in the year or earlier in the year, you may play a team where you have a rest advantage. When you get to the postseason, everybody's on the same schedule. The team that you're playing and you are on the same schedule. And so teams are fresher. Again, the game slows down. Possessions become, more important because of what's on the line. So I think all of these things, as you progress throughout the regular season, and we're now inside a month of the postseason, that's very, very important.
Absolutely, and looking forward to it, man. Do you have your bracket filled out?
I do. I filled it out last night.
Who is in your Final Four?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Yes.
I almost have a chalk Final Four, I think.
Well, that's.
But I have St. John's.
It's hard not to.
I have St. John's.
I like it.
Auburn. Duke. I knew you were going to ask me this. I have to open it up.
Oh, that's okay. You've.
I'll tell you who I have winning it, and I don't even know why I picked them. I have St. John's winning the national championship.
I'll tell you why. Because they've got a national championship coach that would be the best coach in the tournament, and the best tournament coach in the tournament, in my opinion.
I think. I know who. I think I have Houston. I have Houston. If I have my brackets right, and I have St. John's beating Auburn in one semifinal, and I have Rick Pitino and St. John's winning the national championship.
You know what? I like that. I haven't filled mine out yet. I'm probably going to go with Florida to win it. They've handled Auburn a couple of times, which is tough to do. They smoked. They put 4 points on Alabama, and I'm like, wow. So they can win.
Do you feel like this is as wide open an NCAA tournament as we've had in some time?
You know what? I don't know. This was one of I don't know about this one. I talked about that earlier, that these last couple have been really bracket busting
Yeah.
tournaments. I don't have that sense this time for some reason. I don't feel, but maybe it's because of the transfer portal. And again, these teams have been able to be, I don't want to say watered down, but evened out. And there is a lot of equality out there. So bracket busting could happen, but it may not be considered bracket busting as much.
Yeah, I went through it, and I felt like I was going too much chalk in all the matchups, and I'm going through the matchups, and I'm going, I have to pick somewhere a 13 to beat a 4. I mean, I have to, or an 11 to beat a 6, because it happens. But I just felt as I was going through it that, man, I just had too many chalk games. And
but what happens is when you fall into that, if you don't pick the right one, those teams that do upset usually don't go very far.
Right.
So you
right. And then then your bracket is busted because you've put somebody as a winner in the round of 64 or 32, and it messes you up and you lose a whole bracket. Yeah, I agree with that. But I just feel like I went too chalk, but maybe it's going to be a chalk tournament. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this now. Thoughts on Darian DeVries announced as Indiana's newest basketball coach?
I had a great chance to listen to JMV here in Indianapolis yesterday. Chad Buchanan, the Pacers general manager, knows Darren very, very well. They've got Iowa roots, and it feels like there's been a lot of Iowa matriculation to Indiana, right, with Caitlin Clark and Connor McCaffrey and the two McCaffrey boys that are playing for Butler. Connor's a coach, but Chad had great things to say about him. Chad at one time, many years ago, was an assistant at Drake and talked about how DeVries just brought Drake basketball back. And so he's very excited, says he's a basketball junkie, a basketball lifer. And I think we're all excited to see what he can do and build at Indiana.
When you hear words like basketball junkie, lifer, grinder, and I've heard all of those about him from high people. Now, people are going to say nice things. It's like yesterday I saw John Calipari defends SEC's 14 bids. Well, what the hell is he supposed to say? No, we didn't deserve those. We sucked.
Right.
Of course he's going to defend it. Gee whiz. But he's also been it's been a quiet thing. This has not been this fluff and pomp and circumstance kind of a deal. I like that. Just get in, go to work. Kurt Cignetti it. I hate for everybody to be compared to Kurt Cignetti, but man, when you come in and slam a bar up like that, like he did in a program that was a walking corpse, that's going to happen.
Well, and it's a similar hire from the standpoint that, Drake is a mid-major, but look at the success that Drake had over the years. And that was a program that many years ago had success and then went through a period of time where they didn't, and he brought them back. So it's all about winning, right? And how do you win and sustain a program? And I think what we're seeing is, at the college level too, a lot of coaches that have had great success, doesn't even matter where you had it, that success can translate to the next level. Look at what Ben McCollum did, winning Division II national championships. Sure, he took over a Drake program that DeVries had built, but he kept the motor running, and they may be one of those teams that could pull off upsets in the round of 64-32. So I think that's what the great thing about sports is, Jim. We've lived it with the Pacers the last week, winning games down in the final seconds last night, Monday night, and last week against Milwaukee. That's why we're addicted to sports. We love what can happen, and I think we'll be interested to see what happens in Bloomington in the future.
Absolutely, and hopefully things continue that way up in Indianapolis for the Pacers at Gainbridge Fieldhouse and parts unknown as they head towards the playoffs. How far out are we from the playoffs?
We're inside about 4 weeks. Last regular season game is the second weekend of April. Then you have a week of the play-in tournament, and then the playoffs would start roughly April 20th, somewhere around there. So we still have some time. The Pacers have 14 regular season games left, again, with 10 of those at home, but they put themselves in a strong position to be a solid playoff team again here in 2025.
Man, an NBA season is like a year of college without Christmas and spring break.
It's a long season. I mean, by the end of the year, we get to do the first round of the playoffs. I'm going to end up doing between, probably about 85 games this year. So, but when you love doing what you're doing, it's not work. Let me tell you.
Chris Denari, the voice of the Pacers. Appreciate you as always, my friend. Enjoy your day.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
You betcha. Chris Denari joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We've got more coming up. Coach Griffith will rejoin us on the backside as we hit this break one last time. Back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Thursday. Appreciate you being with us. Jim Coyle here, and joined again by Coach Shannon Griffith as just finished up with Chris Denari. A lot of talk there about Jalen Hood-Schifino, Thomas Bryant. In addition to Jalen Hood-Schifino, like I said, he's been playing incredible basketball. I've been chatting with his uncle, and hoping to get both of them. He ironically, Jalen Hood-Schifino's uncle played at West Virginia, so we're working on getting both of those guys on.
Crazy.
So Will, and how about Will Wade? A lot of people were, kind of throwing his name around. And again, that was not going to happen. He was strong ass offer, man. No, strong ass offers don't get hired at Indiana.
No.
He's going to end up at North Carolina State. So he's going into a conference that is very down at a program that is down. And that's a place where he could find a job without question. And he will. Someone asked, let's see, Derby asking, is Osterman, and I think you meant Ostrom, is Ostrom the one that Dan calls tall clipboard guy? He didn't sound thrilled about him, or was in different dude that DeVries will bring over. Well, I would imagine it is Tom Ostrom he's talking about, because I've said numerous times I would be surprised if he winds up in Bloomington. He's the former number one assistant to Archie Miller during his tenure here. Again, it's not just because of what you see on the court. Just remember, you don't know what you don't know. And I'll leave that one with that. Coolio asking, why would Ostrom not come to IU? And similar, why is it surprising he got hired at WVU? Well, again, you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes there are things that go on that are not all that known, but don't need to be said necessarily by me or other people. And just because you know something doesn't mean you have to say it or talk about it all the time. If it's something that is newsworthy, yes, but there's a line you have to learn to walk, right, Coach?
Yeah, there's things that need to be said, and some things that need not to be said, and keep it at that. And because it's not really a pertinent issue at this point to talk about things like that. So,
and just to clear people up, Zach Osterman is the IU beat writer for the Indy Star. Tom Ostrom, Ostrom, is the former Archie Miller and Darian DeVries assistant coach. We'll see. Corey Barnett also on that staff, and someone just mentioned a minute ago that they believe that Corey Barnett is interested in the Oral Roberts head coaching job, which that would be a level that I could see him going in. He's got a lot of experience as an assistant. 6 years at UCLA, 5 years at Nevada. Now, all of those spent under Steve Alford, who has won a lot of games, but has had little to no success in the NCAA tournament. But he's got a lot of contacts, man. That's why I've talked about the resources that the recruiting resources that he brings. It would be nice if they could land him. I mean, this is not like New Mexico getting a Corey Barnett or, someplace further out. This is a school in the middle of where they have the deepest roots of recruiting. So, Jason has an interview with Andy Moore Honda. Wish him luck. But brother, send me a message. Let me know what it's about, what position it's about, and see if we can throw in a good word for you. Appreciate you being along. Jason has an interview with Andy Moore Honda. Great. And as a matter of fact, if anybody looking for a new or used Honda, no better place to go than Andy Moore Honda, right in Bloomington. Michael just wants to win again. Cisco Sunrise. The conspiracy for Indiana and WVU to miss the tourney so Indiana could hire DeVries is great. Yeah, it is. And that, you're right, Cisco. And that just falls back to my fans are too emotional to be rational about things a lot of the time. But it's not just fans. I mean, people are like that in life. Some people that if you're not giving them information that benefits them, they shut it out and cannot have a rational discussion to even listen to why they're not correct. It's amazing, but let's talk some football before we
you're getting closer to get
all today.
Yeah, what I was bringing up,
talking defensively, yeah.
Yeah, what I was bringing up there after we kind of talked about O&D, there is some interesting suggestions that even Deion Sanders and Belichick have wanted to introduce, or a possibility with this spring game scenario that people have, a lot of schools have canceled their spring game, but their suggestion is they would like to see a NFL type of format where you have a 2-day scrimmage, 2-day working against another opponent. And then the third day you'd have a spring game per se against another opponent rather than against yourself. So that seems to be a hot topic of discussion with everything. I don't necessarily think it would be something that many would go for because of the risk of injury, that type of scenario that you could get into with having something like that. But if you're talking about another way to put butts in the stands, you have a spring game against another opponent per se, kind of a win-win in some respects. And I know they're pushing hard for that. And but a big date's coming up here, April 7th, the final verdict on the NIL, the House settlement that involved.
I would be surprised if it's not approved.
Right.
Get it over with, because I've not really heard of any.
There's not going to be any. I don't think there's going to be a roadblock there. But it would, like I said, it would put things in the rearview mirror and let the schools really set forth on the plan to implement what they're going to do, how they're going to do it. The NIL scenarios that are going around. I know there's a question about transparency, and especially centered around NIL and what teams are going to pay kids and things like that. So that'd be an interesting dynamic to see what happens there, whether that becomes public record knowledge because of it's like a state funded school. Does that, are you allowed to get their information about what they are or not?
Let me
paying?
tell you why. Let me tell you why how they're going to get around that. The payments are not actually going to come directly from the school. The conference will use a third party and come through via the conference in essence.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way of getting around that. I don't know, how, but can you stretch that out to reach that point? I don't know, because it's interesting. I don't know how long they're going to be able to go with paying these players the kinds of money that they get paid and it not be known, again, especially when it is at a state institution like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
But well, and the state is not paying it, since the institution itself is not paying it, although they're paying it by having it deducted before they get it.
Yeah, right.
In essence, that's how you get around that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing
how you do your taxes, just like how you do your taxes.
Exactly.
One great point Tyrone says, 3 All-Americans on defense next year with Kamara, Fishers, and Pons.
Yeah.
And look at that. The line, the linebacker, the secondary. You want to talk about 3 anchors right through the middle, the heart of the defense. Having All-Americans at those 3 positions, you're set. No, you're not perfect, but
yeah, you can build around
it. Better. It's better than having 2 All-American DBs and an All-American lineman. This really gives you balance in all 3 phases of the defense.
No question. And those first 2 were big guys that they decided to come back for another season because they could automatically decided to opt for greener pastures per se. But like I said, having those guys back, having Fisher back, of course, he's kind of the quarterback of that defense, makes things a lot simpler, I guess you could say, that you're kind of just turning the car key ignition on and rolling down the highway because of those guys. And again, I think that Indiana was able to add in that secondary what they needed to add to improve maybe some of the issues that they saw last season. And I do think they've got some guys that they got in through the portal up front on the defensive line to plug into the spots that they, got hit from graduation standpoint. So I do think it's going to be a very, very solid team when you talk the top 11 players on offense and defense. Now, the biggest question is always going to be depth and how that all plays out. And it'll be interesting to see in the quarterback room what all transpires there, because if Fernando is the guy, and it appears that way.
Fernando Mendoza. I'm going to
give you another one.
I'm going to put that on. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, is Alberto his younger brother
Mendoza?
Is he the second? Is he the backup? Or is Grant Wilson the backup? So, there's some scenarios that have to play out, and that's why I think the second half of spring practice that comes up here after the spring break that Indiana's having right now are going to be critical for those positions where they're looking for depth. So there's going to be a lot of competition here going through the latter part of spring ball, and they may start pulling off reps of guys that, don't need the reps, and getting the reps to the guys that they need to truly evaluate for a depth perspective.
Yeah. And that is something that is always important and has always been a problem for Indiana football, depth, amongst other things. But that is something that is just being built right now, continuing to be built as Curt Cignetti goes into his second season. Derby mentioned on the comments that could be a brutal year for football, and I'm like, I don't think so. I see 8-4 as an absolute bottom, 9-3 as a safe bet, and 10-2 is not off of the table, because I think they need and will get a signature road win. They have 3 opportunities for that, and that will commence after playing Illinois immediately, as they will travel to Iowa City to take on the Hawkeyes, following the following week, heading out to Eugene to take on the Oregon Ducks, and then later heading over to Happy Valley to take on the Nittany Lions.
Well, no question that this year's going to be a little bit more difficult than even last year was, just from the standpoint nobody knew what they were going to get from Indiana, and whether or not the players that were coming in from James Madison were legit Division I, Big Ten type players. And the schedule helped them out, no question about that, but they were able to get on a roll, and it, panned out for them to get into the college football playoffs. And this year, being that it's going to be a little tougher, is because they're not going to have that sense of sneaking up on somebody either. And I think that was part of the problem with some of the teams last year. This was not the Indiana that they had faced in previous seasons. And it, caught some people off guard, especially in that middle part of the schedule, when Nebraska and Washington came in here and kind of got smacked in the nose. And it kind of lightened everybody up to the fact that Indiana was for real. And I do think they'll take that next step forward.
James doesn't like my Fernando Mendoza call. Maybe I may be wearing some people slick with it, but what are you going to do? Man, another fun day.
You got it, brother.
As always, brother. Look forward to doing it again, as we've got about a month away to the spring game. Month from today, right?
Yeah,
thereabouts, something like that. All right, appreciate you as always.
You too, partner.
Hey, and I appreciate each and every one of you. We could never do this without you, and we're grateful to have you along for the ride. Back tomorrow to do it again. Todd Leary, we'll hear from him. He was at the presser yesterday. What did he think of the hire? Zach Osterman as well. Go out, have yourselves a great day. Appreciate you. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.